favorite stories about what God might be like. And it's written by a really great children's author called Robert Munsch, one of my favorites. And this one is called Giant, or Waiting for the Thursday Boat. One Sunday, McEwen, the largest giant in all of Ireland, got mad for the first time in his life. He sat under his apple tree and he said, when St. Patrick came to Ireland, he chased out all the snakes, he chased out all the elves, he chased out all the other giants. I liked the snakes, I liked the elves, I really liked the other giants. I like almost everybody, but I don't like St. Patrick. McEwen decided to complain. He ran over the countryside, moving mountains and jumping rivers until he came to St. Patrick's church. Then he pounded on the roof, yelled, screamed, and smashed a few trees into matchsticks. Inside the church, it sounded like 3 earthquakes and a thunderstorm. Everybody, even St. Patrick, ran out to see what was going on. When the kids saw McEwen, they yelled, "Giant!" and climbed all over him. He let them climb for a while. Then he said to St. Patrick, I like the snakes, I like the elves, I like the giants, I just don't like you. You'll never chase me out. St. Patrick looked at McEwen and quietly said, I was just doing what God wanted. Right, said McEwen, then send out your God. I'll kick him in the knee, I'll knock him on the head, he'll never recover. St. Patrick laughed. Oh no, McEwen, our God doesn't have fights with giants. McEwen got so mad, he tore the bell out of the church steeple and threw it into the nearest ocean. When St. Patrick saw the church bell flying through the air, he said very patiently to McEwen, you shouldn't throw church bells. Everybody knows that God likes church bells. Someday God is going to get mad. Good, said McEwen. Maybe if he gets mad, he'll come out and fight. That would be nice. I'll kick him in the knee. I'll knock him on the head. He'll never recover. So every Sunday, McEwen threw church bells into the ocean, waiting for God to get mad. Finally, one Sunday, St. Patrick said, now you've done it. You've taken the last church bell in all of Ireland and thrown it into the ocean. God is mad, McEwen. God is coming on the Thursday boat. Great, said McEwen. I'll meet him right on the beach. I'll pound him till he looks like applesauce. On Thursday, McEwen sat on the beach and waited for God. The first boat to come in was a very small boat. In it was a very small girl with a lot of small fish. McEwen looked at her and said, did you happen to see God while you were out there fishing? When he gets off his boat, I'm going to pound it till he looks like applesauce. I've never seen God pounded into applesauce, said the little girl. I think I'll stay and watch. And she sat down beside McEwen. The next boat was very fancy and had sails of silk. A rich man got off. He was so rich that he hired lots of people just to carry his money. He was so rich, he bought the ground he walked on. McEwen said, this must be him. He yelled, look out, God, here comes McEwen. McEwen jumped on the rich man, swung him around, and was about to throw him into the ocean when all the people yelled, wait, he's not God. McEwen put the man down and said he was sorry. The rich man ran off so fast he forgot to buy the ground he was running on. Then McEwen sat down beside the little girl and waited for another boat. The next boat was much bigger and it had lots of flags. A man came off the boat dressed in very fancy clothes. He was so important he was carried by other people. Ah, yelled McEwen, this must be God. McEwen jumped on the man, picked him up, swung him around and was about to throw him into the ocean when the people on the boat yelled, wait, he's not God. McEwen said he was sorry and put him down, and the man ran off so fast he forgot to be carried. McEwen sat down beside the little girl and waited for another boat. The next boat was the biggest one yet. It was full of soldiers and had all sorts of flags. The largest and most important soldier got off first. He had shiny armor made of gold and silver, and he rode a white horse. Ah, said McEwen, this is definitely God. McEwen jumped on the soldier. Then all the other soldiers jumped on McEwen. There was a big fight. McEwen threw them all back onto the boat and told them to go fight a war someplace. As the boat sailed away, McEwen sat down beside the little girl and said, that wasn't God. He was too easy to beat. That's the last boat, said the little girl. I knew it, said McEwen. God's afraid. He's not coming. He heard that I can pound mountains and move rivers, and he's not coming. Mr. McEwen, said the little girl, it looks like God is not going to fight. You're the world's best giant, and even God would have to agree with that. Why don't you stop pounding people and go back to just being friendly? Good idea, said McEwen. I really don't like being angry. The little girl gave him 3 fish, and they became best friends. The next day, McEwen was sitting under his apple tree, and the little girl ran up and said, have you heard? St. Patrick has gone to heaven. He's chasing out all the snakes and elves and giants and filling the place up with church bells. McEwen jumped up and yelled, look out, St. Patrick. He picked up the little girl and jumped so high his head slammed into a cloud. He jumped again and went so high he bumped into a star. He jumped again and went so high he landed right in heaven, right beside St. Patrick. McEwen looked around and saw more church bells than he had ever seen before, even more church bells than in Ireland. There were no giants, no elves, no snakes, but lots of church bells. He ran off, moving mountains, jumping rivers, and throwing bells over the side of heaven. St. Patrick was very upset. He decided to complain. He went to the biggest house in all of heaven and he yelled, send out God! Nobody came out. He went to a smaller house and yelled, send out God! Nobody came out. St. Patrick tried lots of big houses and couldn't find God anywhere. He was so upset he sat down and cried. Just then, McEwen came along and said, Patty, why are you sitting here crying? You're supposed to be hanging church bells. McEwen said, St. Patrick, I can't find God and I want to complain about having a crazy giant like you in heaven. Well, said McEwen, the smallest house in heaven has an angel out front. That's the place to go. You can complain about me and I'll complain about you. They both went to the smallest house in heaven and sure enough, there was an angel. They both went in and saw lots of giants, lots of snakes, lots of elves, lots of church bells, and the little girl. She looked at them and said, saints are for hanging up church bells and giants are for tearing them down. That's just the way it is. Why don't you two try getting along? Right, said McEwen, I'll tear down all the church bells in heaven, then we'll get along. And he started to laugh. Right, said St. Patrick, I guess heaven has enough room for everyone, even crazy giants. And he started laughing. Oh, said the little girl, it's so nice to have a perfect giant and a perfect saint. Then she started to laugh. She laughed till the mountains shook and the rivers moved and the stars changed direction. For a little girl, she had an enormous laugh. McEwen is still throwing church bells out of heaven. They become shooting stars. Go out some night and look for one. Thank you very much for spending this time with me this morning.